right, we're here. Another episode of the Caffeinated Contractor on site or on location at the Nice Ash in Houston, Texas, a great cigar lounge. And my buddy Jesse and I were smoking a cigar. We meet here almost every Wednesday. So if you're in town, you're in Houston, check out Nice Ash. Excellent place to smoke cigars and meet some good people in business. So today we're talking about title, the title company stuff. And you may not think that title is related to construction, but it actually is. And we'll get into that a little bit later today. So Jesse, welcome to the show.
Oh, thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So tell us about Jesse and BRPS Title and what you guys do.
Yeah, for sure. So like you said, my name's Jesse Soto, one of the owners of BRPS Title. We've been in business since, it's been a while. We actually started BRPS Title started as a relocation title company that strictly did relocation. Did all of Brookfield relocations title stuff.
Okay.
And then my business partner, Kerry Russell, actually bought the company. Him and my other partner, Jason Clam, bought the company back in 2019.
Okay.
And if you remember 2019, a small thing called COVID happened.
Never heard of it.
never heard of it. Me neither. And so, they thought that the world was going to shut down and everything like that. But as you know, real estate just went crazy.
Yeah.
So they were, that was their first few years was COVID. I was working at a different title company. They brought me on about almost 2 years ago.
Okay.
And they were looking for more partners. So I actually bought into BRPS.
Awesome.
And I've been an owner for a little over a year now. So it's been
awesome.
It's been fun. So it's crazy kind of how everything worked out, how it was a relo company.
Yeah.
And now we're doing residential and commercial.
Oh, you do commercial too?
We do. Yeah, we're actually about 40 to 50% of all of our business is commercial.
Oh, wow. Okay. Excellent. Relocation. What is that? Like, how does that work?
So relocation is when you go through a relo company. Mm-hmm. People use relo companies or companies use relo companies to kind of help with tax purposes and things like that.
Yeah.
So if, so a relo company would be involved mainly, like say Amazon was relocating, say 50 employees from California to Texas. Or something like that.
Okay.
So we would mainly deal with folks, or back then BRPS would deal with folks that were having to relocate for their jobs.
Sure. Yeah. Oh, that's pretty cool. You guys still do a little bit of that?
We do. Yeah. We deal with several different brokerages that do only relocation. So we do a bit of that. It's not a big part of our business, but it's something we still do because, again, that's where it came from.
Yeah, sure. Exactly. That's like elevation construction. We do primarily residential right now, but we started with apartment renovations. We got that in our background. If it came up again, we can certainly do it for sure because we got that background and the capability and the systems behind it.
Yeah, and I saw some of your stuff.
Yeah,
we're in the same group, networking group, and you got to speak about it. And man, the pictures you did on those rehabs, it was amazing.
I tell you what, that was a lot of fun. Just transforming an old rundown apartment complex and just transforming not just the because we did property management too. So we renovated it, but we also brought in some really good tenants, raised the rents, and just transformed that whole area to where the cops used to go there all the time, and the cops hardly went there. So it was kind of cool to be a part of that, Yeah. But anyway, kind of a different phase in our company now where we're doing something different.
That's awesome.
Economy kind of does that to a business, right?
That's what happens. That's what happens.
Yeah. But with title and as it relates to kind of construction, my wife's a real estate agent, and whenever you buy a house, she handles all that stuff, right? The title and everything. So I vaguely know what title does and what they do. But as it relates to like a construction project and what I do, in fact, I am in the process of putting a lien on a property, unfortunately, because they didn't pay their bill. Yeah. I know that's something that when you go through title, that's some of the things that you guys pick up. And so let's talk about like maybe just a buyer perspective at the moment. And they are trying to buy a house, and through your work, you find out that there is a lien on the property. How does that work? How do you guys find it, and how do you remedy it? How do you serve your clients and helping them through that process?
Yes, for sure. So as soon as we get a contract on the property, so as soon as both the buyer and the seller sign the contract, we get it. and we'll do what we call open title. And basically, in a nutshell, what opening title means is we're just literally having our underwriters look through the history of the property, make sure
Mhm.
that, like you said, there's no liens, no bankruptcies,
Right.
making sure that the right people are actually selling the property. So when the buyer
Yeah.
takes over the property, everything's free and clear. They don't get like a third cousin down the road saying, "Oh, hey, my uncle, so it was their property and they promised me, a percentage of it or something like that."
Yep.
Um, but when we get it back, when we get title back from our underwriter, and say there's 3 liens on the property, so what we're going to do is we're going to send the seller what's called a not same person affidavit, and that's
Okay.
just them saying, "Hey, this isn't my lien, this isn't my name, this isn't who I am," kind of thing. And if they come back say, "Yeah, that's actually my lien," we'll try and remedy it. So we'll either ask the seller, "Oh, hey, can you pay this off now?
Okay.
Do you have the funds to pay it off now, or do we need to pay it off at closing?" Because as you know, there's a first lien holder, second lien holder, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, sure.
And usually 9 times out of 10, once we run title, there's going to be at least one lien, and that one lien,
Mhm.
if they have a mortgage on the property, it's going to be the mortgage, which is
Sure.
an easy one to clear. We just
Yeah,
get to pay
exactly.
off, and we pay
Right.
once everything's closed. Other than that, a lot of other ones we see are contractors putting on a lien,
Okay.
pool companies, things like
Sure.
that.
Sure.
A lot of the times, especially during COVID, or no, not COVID, but Harvey, when Harvey happened, everything flooded. So you had these fly by night contractors that
Hmm.
would come in,
Yeah,
do the work, put a lien
exactly.
on the property, leave, go bankrupt, something like that. And all we need to do with that, so if we can't find the person that put the lien on the property, there's not much we can do.
Sure.
Um, so we'll ask the seller, do you have their contact information? And maybe they'll say, yes, here it is. And we'll call. Can't get a hold of anybody. There's only so much we can do.
Yeah.
If our underwriter has enough confidence that there's nobody to pay back, then we'll go ahead and take that off.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Also, a lot of the times as well, say something is there's a lien on the property, and the person says, "Oh, hey, I did pay this off." Maybe the contractor forgot to take off that lien. So
Okay.
all we need on that is just either like a check saying, "Oh, hey, look, this is the check that I did. It cleared. It's fine. We can
Gotcha.
take that off."
Gotcha. Okay.
And those are the easier liens.
Yeah.
You've also got liens. We had one where it was a slighted ex girlfriend that
Oh, lovely.
that didn't like the ex boyfriend, and put a lien on the property. And we found the girlfriend's information. We called her, and she basically was like, "Oh, I forgot I even did that."
She.
So we were able to take that one off. But
Yeah.
but yeah, so we try and remedy the lien right then and there. And if we can't, that takes a little bit more time. But we want, or we have to have the property free and clear for the buyer, so
Yeah.
nothing, they don't take anything on.
What about a scenario where, let's just say, for example, the lien that we're putting on a house, the seller, let's say he's selling his house, he's like, no, I'm not paying that, and now he's trying to sell his house, and he's still being stubborn about it, and he
Yeah.
doesn't want to pay it off, but the contractor or whoever the lien holder is wants their money. Is that just going to keep the house from being sold, or is there some kind of mediation that you guys do on that?
So not because that's more of an attorney that has to kind of
Yeah.
mediate that.
Sure.
But the house can't be sold without that lien. What we
Sure.
can do in some circumstances, we can actually take the lien off and make it go with the person themselves, so we can go ahead and sell the
Oh,
house.
wow.
Say they're buying a new house, the contractor can find out, oh, hey, they've already sold this house. Title didn't do their work. There's a lien on the property.
Yeah.
You can actually go ahead and transfer that lien to the new property that they have.
Oh my gosh.
So there's
So you're just
several
kicking the
things.
can down the road, really.
Basically, yeah. But I mean, there's some
Jeez.
things that you can do, but
Yeah.
most of them, and it matters what kind of lien it is. Like if
Okay.
it's a utility or something like that, you have to have that paid off before you sell the property.
Okay.
So some of the biggest ones we've seen are like child support.
Okay.
The government always has to get paid first, no matter what.
Of course. Yeah.
Tax liens, things like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, they can't sell the property until that person gets paid off. And especially like we see a lot of, say, entrepreneurs or whatever that had to get capital for their businesses and things.
Yeah.
So there might be like 3-4 lien holders, and
Damn.
and that kind of, it matters where your lien is at
Yeah.
in the fray. Is like, okay, you might get paid, you might not. There might not be that much money for the sale of the house.
Oh,
You're just
geez.
trying to pay off all those liens. if it
So
happens.
mechanics lien, I would imagine, would kind of fall low in the priority
It would,
list.
yeah. It's you're going to be more like second, third lien holder.
Okay.
But I mean, that's a whole different thing. Like it
Sure,
just
sure.
matters, how much the house is worth, how much they're getting, things like that. But an attorney would be a perfect person to start with on that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, we had one actually. There was a gentleman sold his house. I think it was like say 130,000. He had over $80,000 worth of child support liens that
Damn.
he owed. He had a few kids, and then he came to us like it was our issues. I'm like, sorry, man.
Jeez. Are you guys
Clearly
gonna
you're a
pay this or
deadbeat
what?
dad. Yeah. And he was like, well, they're already over 18 and all this.
Yeah.
I'm like, still, that's money that you owe.
Yeah.
And it was kind of one of those come to Jesus meetings. I think he ended up making maybe 10 grand off the property because he owed so much money.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Dang,
Yeah.
that's crazy. All right. Well, there's a lot to it than just a mechanics lien, of
Quite a
course.
bit. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So that's if you find a lien in the sale portion of it. What about prior to? Let's just say someone wants to sell a house.
Mhm.
What are some of the things that they can protect themselves from getting a mechanics lien? Let's say, for example.
Really on that you just have to figure out what's going on. So I mean, like, and you really won't know if you have a lien on your house until you do sell it.
Yeah. Right.
That's the biggest thing. And once you figure out who put the lien on the property, what the lien is,
Mhm.
then you can kind of dig more. You can dig a little deeper on it.
Yeah.
But you really won't know until you either run title or you figure out what's
Yeah.
or you sell the property, see what's on it.
Do you think it's beneficial for homeowners to request a lien waiver from the contractor after a job, or does that even matter?
I would say yes. I mean,
Okay.
that's the one thing because you want to make sure that the contractor takes off the lien.
Yeah.
That's the biggest part. If I mean, it's tough to say. I would say yes. And as a homeowner, you want to ask them after the job's done and everything's paid for. That's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
Everything's paid.
Right.
Just to, as could be as nice as, hey man, just wanted to ask if you put a lien on the property, and if you did you take it off?
Sure. Sure. Sure.
Because 9 times out of 10, people don't know. Like,
Yeah.
because I've seen multiple times where someone like put a deck in,
Mhm.
and the homeowner had no idea that they put a lien on the property. They just did it, and then hope, knock on wood, that they take it off. They remember, to take it off. But
Yeah.
usually that's all in the contractor, and that's why, selecting a contractor is so important.
Yeah, exactly. And that's one thing that I press on a lot is that like the transparency for the invoicing and receipts and stuff too, right? Because
Yeah,
like on our software, you can pay for it and it shows as paid, right?
that's
And you can
awesome.
print all that stuff out and saying, hey, my balance is zero, everything is paid. And if you add another layer of protection, hey, can I get a lien waiver for this project saying you were paid in full this much,
Yeah,
and that equals the amount of your total bill? Um, should be pretty good, pretty well protected on that one.
yeah, for sure. Because I
Yeah.
mean, and God forbid you forget to take off the lien or whatever. At
Yeah,
least whenever they sell their house, they have that, and
exactly.
it's easier for our underwriters to kind of take it off and be like, okay, cool, paid, good, no
And
one's gonna come
if you
after me.
guys saw that, you would say, okay, cool. Yeah, it's just a
Oh, 100%. Yeah,
clerical mistake here. Yeah.
yeah, for sure.
Excellent. Okay. We don't like for our company, we can certainly provide lien waivers. We do it all the time when we work with banks, right? They
Yeah,
require it. But if someone were to request it, we certainly would do it for sure.
that's
It's
awesome.
just a lot of extra,
Steps.
admin work, but we understand the protection. We're there to protect the clients and stuff. So,
Yeah,
but not all contractors do this. So if you're getting an estimate and you have an estimate on a piece of paper and it's a long paragraph with one final price, for a fact that they are not doing a very good job keeping records of their
yeah,
crap.
for sure.
So yeah, I just, that drives me insane.
Yeah,
Drives me
it's
insane.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like, you could put anything on there.
Yeah. So elevation construction, that's where you need to
I love
go.
that.
All right. So we talked about liens and things like
Mhm.
that. Let's talk a little bit about title insurance. What is that and how important is it?
Yeah, so title insurance is super important. So
Yeah.
important that if you get a mortgage on the property or you get a loan for the property, they require title
Right.
insurance.
Yeah.
It's funny because I'll hear those radio ads about, oh, you're not protected, you're not blah blah, but that radio ad usually goes all around the nation, right? So like some states don't require title insurance.
Hmm.
Texas does.
Yeah.
Or Texas lenders do. But it's super important. So not only, are we running title, making sure that everything's free and clear for the buyer, we're also able to show, oh, hey, look, so-and-so's, had passed away. We asked for the will. We're able to figure out all that stuff. And
Yeah.
title insurance basically states, okay, look, you have insurance on this property, no one's going to come after you,
Yeah.
kind of thing.
Sure.
And I know we were talking earlier about just like scenarios and stuff, but
Right.
we had one where basically it was a home builder who had bought a property from a source that he thought was legit.
Yeah.
We actually went through title. Everything was good. We were talking to the seller. We ran title, made sure everything was fine. Everything was fine. We got all the documents we needed.
Mm.
We even talked to the seller on the phone, which is crazy.
Yeah.
Come closing, we went ahead, closed everything. The seller was a mail out. So it's basically what a mail out is. It's a mobile notary.
Okay.
So had a notary go, sign him, showed ID, everything. The builder was actually buying it for his mom, who was retired,
Mm.
and was building a house for her.
Yeah.
Halfway, he actually already broke ground, everything like that. Come to find out, the person that sold the property was not the person that actually owned the property.
Mm. Wow.
So since he had title insurance, he actually went ahead, because the actual seller basically stated, I wasn't going to sell the property. I didn't even realize that it went into contract, all that stuff.
Yeah.
But our underwriters, our insurance, covered it. So not only paid off for the sale of the property what he bought it for, but also gave him like 20 or 30% extra because he had already started building. So if he
Oh.
didn't have title insurance, he'd be out all of that money,
Huh.
all of that money.
Okay.
So title insurance is super important. I mean, it gives you not only that peace of mind. I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah.
It's insurance.
Yeah. Right.
But it also has that buyer knowing that, okay, no one's going to come after me saying that they own this property. I'm
Yeah.
not going to have a fourth cousin twice removed,
Yeah.
saying that they have access to this property. If a lien pops up, they're not liable for it. It's, there's so many things that can go and happen because you have no idea who else owned that property beforehand. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
you're kind of coming at it like, hey, I don't know what's going on. And that's what a title company is used for.
Yeah.
BRPS, we're locally owned. Me and both of
Mhm.
my partners live here.
Yeah.
We work here. We play here. Our
Yeah.
family's here.
Yeah.
So we want to make sure that our customers and our clients are safe and protected.
Yeah.
Also title, we play a third party. I always say we're Switzerland. We're not on the buyer side. We're not on the seller side.
Sure. Yeah.
We're just that intermediary. We also, hold the funds. We deal with the lenders, both realtors, the insurance. We deal with everybody. We're kind of that
Yeah.
middle, kind of make sure no one's feeling like they're getting kind of rolled over.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kind of like you make sure it's a win for everybody type
For
of deal.
sure.
Yeah. In the scenario with the builder, though,
Mhm.
so did he have to give the property back?
So it's that actually, this was literally the best situation ever. So
Yeah.
they ended up making him whole on everything he did. And then the gentleman that was selling it basically was like, you know what? Not to come to think about it, I do want to sell this property. He sold it for a little bit more
Uh-huh.
than he bought it in the first time because, again, it was a scammer that was just trying to get money.
Yeah.
So he ended up getting the property, which was awesome. It was kind of a win for everyone. It was the best scenario, the best case
Oh,
scenario.
wow.
It's funny because, not funny, but so your underwriter kind of tries to come back to the title company trying to figure out where you messed up. So basically, because they'll pay out the claim,
Yeah.
and then they'll try and get their money back as much as they can
Yep.
for paying out the claim. And usually they'll go after the title company that did the work,
Yep.
or they'll try and go after the notary or whoever, the brokers of the realtors or anything.
Yep.
They said it was the very first time ever that they found out that nobody was at fault.
Wow.
It was pretty crazy.
Dang, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
So the guy was able to build and do what he wanted
Yep.
to do for his mom and things like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
It all ended well
Dang,
at the end.
that's
Yeah, it was the perfect the perfect end. It
Yeah.
was amazing.
That's interesting.
Yeah, we were all pretty blessed on that one.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Wow. All right, so that's title insurance. Went through a little scenario. I
Yep.
think we were talking about a different scenario back there too.
Yes. This one was it's crazy. You think you've seen it all until you see something new. And
Yeah.
every day it's new because
Yeah.
all my escrow officers, they like to say that they're like Dick Tracy because you really are a detective, because once you get title back, you have to go through and figure out who's who and all that stuff.
Sure.
But this one, it was a realtor that called me to ask me about what's happening. So they had a client, and an older lady
Uh-huh.
who was in assisted living. She had a granddaughter who was living at her property. Come to find out, the elderly woman needed to sell the property so she could pay for her assisted living, which
Oh,
again,
yeah.
like I was saying, is just sad and
Yeah.
it stinks at the end. But
Right.
so she was selling a property. The realtor that was representing her went to the property and saw that there was a lockbox and there was lumber, and it looked like the house was newly painted and all
Oh,
this stuff.
wow.
And so she went back to her client. She was like, "Have you done anything to it?" She was like, "No, I haven't done anything for it in 30 years or
Oh
whatever."
my gosh.
So basically, come to find out, a investor had bought it, or a flipper bought it from the granddaughter, who the granddaughter told all of the neighbors that her grandmother passed away, and the neighbors hadn't seen her in forever. So they
Huh.
were like, "Oh my God, that's so sad.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry." Um, so the investor went to one of the title company they use for all their flips, and they probably didn't do a full background like what they should have done,
Yeah.
because they did basically had all the neighbors sign and it's called an affidavit or airship affidavit, just having three disinterested parties state that there was no one else besides the person selling the property that could sell the property. And you
Okay.
use that if you don't have a will, or if it's
Huh.
not probated.
Okay.
So they've known this elderly lady for years and years and years.
Mm.
They said, no, the only person that's related to her that's alive is the granddaughter. So she has the right to sell a property. As a title company, the first thing we would ask is, does she have a will? And can we see the obituary kind of thing? And, show
Yeah.
us that she actually passed.
Confirmed. Exactly.
They didn't. And so sold the property. Thank goodness they had title insurance. I don't really know what happened to
Yeah.
that whole thing, but yeah, a lot of people are definitely
Dang.
going to get in trouble on that one.
Yeah.
And, but we kind of digging into it, we found out the flipper was kind of bullying the title company, stating, "Hey, look, if you
Mm.
ever want any more of our business, you'll push this
Yeah.
through." And they were just, playing Russian roulette, hoping that, no one's going to come back for this property.
Yeah. We did an episode not long ago. Essentially was I don't remember the title, but it was like not all flippers are created equal.
Ooh, I like that.
you
Yeah.
know, there's some great ones out there for sure, but there's also some out there that are just out there to make a buck.
Man, so my biggest pet peeve, and my wife makes fun of me daily on this. My biggest pet peeve on builders and flippers
Uh-huh.
is when they do just one coat of paint on the doors.
Oh yeah,
Like
yeah,
when
yeah,
you walk in, you can see the brown from the door. And
yeah.
you're just like, man, just either
One
put
more
that
coat.
better paint or just one more
Yeah,
coat. Just I
yeah.
don't like seeing the thin
I
paint.
know.
Yeah,
Gosh.
that's my
Yeah.
one like weird pet peeve.
I don't know. If you're going to flip a house, you do it right. You
Yeah,
change the electrical out, you change the plumbing out, you make it so that it's like a new home, right?
agreed.
And
Yeah.
you don't just put paint over crap. But anyway, separate topic, right? I got pet peeves too,
Yeah, I
man.
love that topic though.
Yeah, yeah. So speaking of flippers, like
Yeah.
let's say a flipper wants to be legit, right?
Hmm.
And they run into, say, obviously, typically a flipper will find a home that's in distress
Yeah.
and will flip that house. What kind of things should they be thinking about as it relates to title as they go into a transaction like that?
Yeah, for sure. So I'm going to go back to Harvey. Let's go
Sure,
back to
sure,
Harvey, because
sure.
that was a lot of flippers were buying those distressed
Okay.
properties. What you're going to want to do, like, so we deal with a few investors and flippers.
Okay.
The good ones will run title to make sure that they are getting a clear, free and clear home. Because if you pay cash, you don't actually have to have title insurance if you pay cash.
Okay. Yeah.
So some of these guys, and as coming from a title company standpoint, if we see, say, the person that had the distressed property had title insurance,
Yep.
flipper buys it cash, doesn't have title insurance, and once they sell it, and the person that's buying it has a mortgage or a loan on the property, they have to use title insurance. When we run title, we'll see, we call it a cloud and title.
Okay.
So it's a break in the chain.
Yeah.
So when we look, we're like, well, who's the person selling the property isn't the person that, had the property before that had insurance.
Right.
It's kind of like whenever you get car insurance, if you let it lapse, whenever you try and get it again, they're like, well, why didn't you have insurance from here to here?
Right. Yep.
What happened
I've had that happen before.
there?
Yeah.
And that's kind of our mindset. We're
Yeah.
basically like, okay, what happened right here? We can't, because we look at the history of the property.
Yeah.
Who is this person that's selling the property? They're not the ones that we had stuff on before. So, we have to dig a little bit deeper on that. So, it does take a little bit more time, but you just figured out, oh, they're bought it in cash. They didn't have insurance.
Yeah.
Cool. We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
But a good investor or flipper will have title insurance because they know already, okay, it's going to make it a lot easier to sell this property when we go under contract.
Yeah.
And it gives them a wider
It's a
net
very
to
good point.
cast to figure out, for potential buyers.
Yeah.
Once we see that, oh, this person had insurance, we can see, it was legit, the deed's legit, everything's legit.
Yeah.
So you'll get, and I've seen this all the time. Well, you'll get those investors or flippers that are like, you have to use this title company, and it's usually like an attorney or somebody like that can kind of do things. And it's
Not fully though.
yeah, but it's still
Yeah.
title insurance. It is what it is. But
Yeah.
but yeah, so it's a good one is are going to do the steps that it takes to help out the buyer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What
Shady,
about
don't be shady.
yeah, don't be shady. So the guys that say, "Hey, I can buy a house and close in 7 days,"
Yeah.
does that give title enough time to do their thing?
Depends on the title company.
Yeah.
Depends. What I like to say is yes, but that's
Yeah.
can you do this? Yes, but this is what we got to do to get it done.
Yeah.
It just matters. Usually we get title 24, 48 hours. I mean, we did a
Oh, okay.
closing
Okay.
the other week in 2 days, which is
Yeah.
unheard of.
Wow.
But that being said, nothing was on title. Nothing. There were no
It
dead
was
people. There were
clean.
no
Yeah.
liens. It was what we call a clear title.
Yeah.
So it wasn't a loan, it was cash, so it was
Yeah.
really quick. So,
Yeah.
so you have somebody saying, oh yeah, we'll close in 7 days. They don't know what's on title.
Yeah.
I mean, I would like to tell people, yeah, we can close tomorrow. I don't know. Like
Yeah,
I
yeah,
haven't
yeah.
looked at it.
Exactly.
So, it's yes, but
It
yeah,
depends on the mess that you guys got to clean up, right?
exactly.
After you find all the crap. Yeah.
We had, for instance, a few months back, we're still working on it. We had a client that had title open with us, and they were under contract. Everything was good. When we ran title, there were 73 dependents. It was somebody that had passed away, and it was crazy because the attorney of the deceased was the only one that had talked to this person. Like none of these people came to see her in the hospital. The lady had passed, nothing. And then all of a sudden, once they found out that her house was for sale, everyone came back with their hands out, and the attorney was telling us, she was like, "Yeah, no one has seen her from the 10 years I've known her." But there, 70 something.
She loved her.
I was thinking they were selling the property for like I think like $100,000. I was like, each of you are gonna get $3. Like it's, after everything, it's crazy how some of you see the best and worst of people.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what
That's
we
a
do,
good point.
because we have no idea what the situation is.
Yeah.
For instance, we don't know how, the buyer and seller got. We don't know if they were yelling at each other on, $20 or whatever.
Yeah. Right.
So, every time that we see somebody that comes through our doors, we try and kind of deal with them with the utmost respect, because we don't know if they're a first-time home buyer, because we hear the same questions every day.
Yep.
So we have to realize, hey, these people, they just got married, they're excited, it's their first home.
Yeah.
So you have to be excited, and that's kind of what we dig into as well. To the realtors, we ask them those questions. For instance, we had one where it was a daughter whose dad was battling cancer for legitimately almost 8 years, and he had passed away, and she was selling his house, and it was her childhood home, and she was just so beat up. So we made sure that we had Kleenex, at the table. We knew that it was going to be a longer closing because she may want to talk about, everything. We wanted to make sure there were no, wine or anything around, because, it wasn't a celebration. It was, more of a calm kind of closing.
Yeah.
So it's, we try and do those touch points, and, I like to say white glove service.
Yeah.
Do we know the scenario that we're having to deal with?
Sure.
Because that also helps our escrow officer on, how much time is involved as well.
Yeah. I like that, because you're not treating it like a transaction. It's more of a relational type scenario.
Exactly. And, one thing that COVID taught us whenever we were kind of, and I know, it was years ago now, but, we were all trapped in our house.
Yeah.
And during closings, that was really the only time we would really see people. So you should make it more of an experience rather than just a transaction.
That's a good point.
And that kind of makes us, a little different in that aspect. I know everyone's like, oh, what makes you different? Customer service.
Yeah.
No, we feel like customer service is a part of it, but it's the entire experience. For instance, I run to these people. I was at 8 Row Flint not too long ago, and I saw a girl and her husband, and they came up to me and they were like, "Hey, you closed us 2 years ago. We remember that, blah, blah, blah." And I was like, "I don't remember any of these people." You can't, you're like, "Oh,
you do a lot of them.
How's your house? How's everything?"
Yeah.
And it's a whole thing. It's funny because everyone makes fun of me at closing, because I like to be in there and congratulate whoever's closing.
Sure, yeah.
But my saying is, we're like Olive Garden when you're here, your family.
Yeah.
And it's funny and it's kind of quirky, but we mean it. Like, we're here for you. I mean, whatever you need. I mean, that's kind of what it is.
That's awesome. I like that. I like that mentality. So we hit buyers, we hit sellers. talked a little bit about the flippers thing. So
Yeah,
just the way I say, like, obviously when you're flipping or you invest, you're looking for the bottom line, right? You need to
for
make
sure.
sure you're making money on each transaction. But, um, you're saying title insurance, peace of mind, going through title, making sure everything is clear. At the end of the day, even though it's going to cost you money, it's also going to save you in the end, right?
It will. And you know what's funny? It's funny you say that. The bottom line, bottom line. So
Yeah.
I always hear you get the flippers and you get the investors, and they
Yeah.
always ask, "Are you investor friendly? Are you an investor friendly
Oh, I
title
hate
company?" And
that.
I'm like, "Oh,
I
do you mean
hate
we're
that.
cheap?"
Yeah, exactly. Oh, we're going to drop our price 50% just for you
Yeah,
guys.
yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
No,
you're
I
like,
hate
this is your
that.
first time using me, but hey, here's a discount. But one cool thing about title is it's
Yeah.
run by the state of Texas. The
Yeah.
fees are
Yeah.
so the insurance fee, the title premium is what we call it. The premium is run by the state of Texas.
Yeah.
So every single title company that you use, they're gonna have the same premium as everywhere
Got
else in
it.
the state of Texas. So the one thing that's different though is the escrow fee. So escrow is all encompassing. So that's basically what you're
Right.
paying the escrow officer to do the job, to do the
Hmm.
work.
Hmm.
So that's the one thing. If you are an investor, a flipper, if you're buying your first house, if you're selling your first house, whatever, if you're going to question and if you're actually trying to figure out your bottom line,
Yeah.
is that's what you're going to want to ask. What are your escrow fees?
Okay.
And one other thing is, what are your junk fees? Because it's insane because we are run so closely to TDI, Texas Department of Insurance,
Hmm.
that we have to list out all of the fees at the end in this. We
Okay.
call it CD. It's a closing disclosure,
Uh-huh.
and it's funny to see because like when people are pricing, and I know when they're pricing me because they're basically like, hey, we just need the bottom line. What are the closing costs?
Yeah.
And we put an all inclusive escrow fee, so it's I think we just had to raise it, but we're still like $50 to $100 cheaper than our competitors. So
Okay.
it's like 475, 500, something like that. And but it's all inclusive, so we have no junk fees, so no FedEx, no notary, no nothing.
Oh, wow.
And we found out that hey, sometimes we'll lose, but other times we'll win.
Yeah,
Because
sure.
sometimes somebody might need like 3 notaries. Yeah, we lost on that one. But other times nobody needs any notaries. So,
Yeah.
we won. So we
Yeah.
kind of just did it as that. Um, you also don't have to worry about all those fees. I mean, that's the thing. Cause like
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
seen other competitors like closing disclosures and like they'll put like a $5 just random weird fee, like parking fee or whatever. And it's just, it's funny to see like how we've got about our bottom line, right?
Yeah.
Like it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah. I would recommend just throw that in there. Like, throw that number in there expecting to spend money on this. And I'm just
Yeah.
saying this as kind of someone on the outside
Yeah.
of, if I were flipping a house, I want that peace of mind. I
No,
want to know that
100%.
like when I buy it, I'm protected, but when I sell it again, I'm also protected, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So peace of mind. I
Well,
always like peace of mind. I'll pay for that.
no, me too. Me too.
Yeah.
And the one thing is, I think we forget just, as an industry and not just a title, but like in the real estate industry,
Yeah.
that these are the biggest investments that
Of
these people
course.
are ever going to make in their entire lives,
Yeah.
bro.
Yeah.
And I think we forget that.
Yeah.
So, and I have to tell myself that I have to remember it's not just a transaction like we've been talking about.
Yeah.
This is a massive investment in either, even if they're an investor. I mean, you
Yeah.
don't know if this is their first investment property that they've been doing
Yeah.
before.
Exactly.
I mean, they're on pins and needles,
Yeah.
and we have to realize that it is an investment. It's not just a transaction. This is
Yeah.
people's lives, their livelihoods, everything. I mean,
Yeah.
so it's cool to always remind yourself that.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Well, did we not hit anything that we could have touched on regarding title and construction or anything else that we could probably chat about today?
Man, I mean, just title being the sexiest part of real estate. I
It
mean, it's
is,
just
man. You really sold it today.
yeah, yeah. It's cool because it's one thing, and thank you for inviting me on
Of
because
course,
no
man.
one really knows what title does, and
Honestly,
it's
I
crazy.
did not know. I had to ask my wife today. I'm like, hey, can you tell me what title does again so I can ask some good
And
questions
I've
today?
known you for so long. You see?
Yeah. But I mean, the thing is, at the end of the day, the way I see it, the one word is protection.
Yeah,
You're protecting all parties involved. You're protecting the seller and the buyer, making sure that the transaction is legit and everyone can do what they intend on doing.
for sure. And we've
Yeah.
dealt. Right now we're seeing a lot of like construction loans.
Okay.
With
Yeah.
and we'll bring it back to construction, and
Okay.
that's showing that kind of people are doing things to their homes. They're trying to
Yeah.
build up, do stuff like that, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Because I think the way we're at right now with interest rates, the way,
Yeah.
and I'm not a lender, so I'm not going to talk about interest rates,
Sure.
but showing that, hey, rather than move and, I've got this 2.3 interest rate that I had in 2020. Rather than move, why don't we just build on our house, or let's redo our house?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so we've seen a lot of that happening as well.
How does title play in that
So like
scenario?
refinances, cash out, stuff like that. So basically, if you're getting another loan on the property,
Hmm.
you have to have you have to have title insurance again, because it's
Oh,
a whole
really?
different loan. You
Interesting.
had, say you just bought a house,
Yeah.
and it's a mortgage. You've got a mortgage on the house. You're going to have title insurance on that loan. But
Ah,
say you're going to do a cash out refinance and take money out of that equity that you have in the property, it's going to be a whole different loan. So you
yeah.
need title insurance, because the mortgage company has no idea what you did on that property. Like, you could have taken out 7 different new
That's right.
liens.
That's
You
right.
should have,
Oh,
you could
yeah.
have somebody else that did, as a second lien holder. So we have to go ahead and make sure all those liens are
I
cleared
like that.
before you get a new loan on the
That's
property.
good information because
Yeah.
we do get those requests a lot. And if we go to a house, we're doing this, and I know they're working with a bank, we
Yeah.
can say, hey, are you working with title on this? Like, how's that working? Right.
Yeah.
Making sure they're all legit and good to go on that. Okay. I
Yeah.
didn't know that.
Well, it's crazy. It's funny, because we do get a lot of people. Why do we have to get title insurance again? And then I kind of say it like that, like, they don't know what you did from
Yeah. That's
from
a good
year
point.
one
Yeah.
to year 5. Like, you
Exactly.
could have bought in 7 different boats, and had several things done,
Yep.
and they're basically giving you a loan on a property that you are way under on, right?
Yeah.
Like, and it's something that we used to see a lot whenever interest rates were really low, but
Yeah.
really don't see anymore, because no one's
Yeah.
really refinancing.
Yeah. That's a good point.
Yeah.
On the contractor side, is there anything that the contractor should know or be aware of in a scenario like that where they're refinancing and titles involved?
Not really.
Okay.
I would just, as a contractor, just know what you're playing with, like money wise. Just,
Yeah.
if it just comes about. But I really wouldn't.
Okay.
Just because, I mean, that's not really your concern. It's just, okay, where am I going to be at on the lien? Am I going to be on first,
Exactly.
second,
I want to
third,
be number one on the liens
12th,
here.
12th lien holder? Because,
Yeah.
because mortgage is always first, and then you've got, anybody else below.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the contractors are like, psh,
Yeah.
dead
But you still
last.
get paid. You still got to get paid.
Yeah,
We'll make
one
sure,
day.
hey, anything that closes a BRPS, we'll make sure.
That's right. Exactly. Awesome, man. Well, cool. A couple other questions.
Yeah.
One,
100%.
what are you smoking?
Man, so it just went out, but I'm smoking the Padron. I had one last week,
Uh,
and it is phenomenal. It's
yeah,
outstanding.
that's excellent. You know what? I don't even know what the name of this. Do you know what the name of this is?
Don't. It's written in cursive.
It's cursive. I smoked this last week.
Liga,
Liga Privada?
Liga Privada.
There we go. Liga
Shout out
Privada.
to Colin, one of the
There
owners
you
of
go.
Nice Ash. She's
Mr. Knows it all. So, but yeah, I smoked it last week and I was like, man, that's the best cigar I've ever had. So
they're good. Yeah,
it's my go-to now. Books, favorite
man.
book.
There's so many, so many. I like it's. I could have told you like 7 just like 10 minutes ago.
Yeah.
So I really, really like my very first book. It's going to be, I mean, everyone has read this book. So, Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Of course. Yeah.
That was my very first book when I really wanted to realize, hey,
Yeah.
I want to do business. And I mean, it's always on my shelf. I think I have like 4 copies that I give
Yeah.
away to like younger,
Sure.
in their 20s that are
Yeah.
just getting into stuff. I also really like, what is it? The guy that does rucking a lot. I forget. Talks about how you're not comfortable in life, and it's be comfortable with being.
Is he a Navy SEAL guy?
Yeah.
Goggins?
Yeah.
Yeah. David Goggins?
Yeah.
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 He's pretty extreme.
He is.
Yeah.
But it's cool because like I'm not that extreme, so it's
Yeah. Not many people are. Yeah.
And then also, I do like right now. Actually, I'm reading the like bibliography of Theodore Roosevelt.
Oh,
And that
wow.
one's like that thick.
Yeah. I've
And,
got one of those too. Yeah.
and it's pretty cool. And he's my favorite president. And
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm trying to read Warren Buffett's book. It's about 700 something pages.
Dude, I have that book. I have
It's
not
hard.
even
The Snowball.
Yeah.
It's good, but man, it gets to a point where it's like talking really in depth about like investing and stuff and what he does.
Yeah.
I just got lost. I'm like, all right, I need to put this away and read something more simple for a little while.
Yeah.
So I can, but yeah, I'm working. I probably got about 100 pages left, but
Dude, that's awesome.
It's a pretty good book.
That's
it's pretty
awesome.
good. Yeah.
And I really like stuff like James Clear. Like
Yeah.
his
Atomic
stuff
Habits.
is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Atomic Habits. And it's funny because I heard about Atomic Habits
Yeah.
on the Art of Manliness podcast.
Oh, okay.
We talked about earlier.
Yeah.
And I was reading it, and then all of a sudden, like a few months later, I started seeing it at Target. I started hearing people.
Oh
I
yeah,
think that was
yeah,
when he
yeah.
was doing his book tour.
Okay,
But
yeah,
I knocked it out before. I'm like a hipster. I read it before it was cool.
yeah.
That one's a good one.
It
That's
is a good
on
book.
my
Yeah, same
yeah,
here.
on my library. Yeah.
Same here. That helped me out quite a bit. You brought up Rich Dad Poor Dad. So on my last deployment, I
Hmm.
was on the USS Carl Vinson. And I knew it was my last deployment. I get on the ship and I was freaking bummed because this was like my third deployment in like 2 years.
Oh man.
And, I had just said goodbye to my son and my wife, got on the ship. I was depressed,
Yeah.
beyond depressed. I'm
I'm
like, man,
sure, man.
I'm not going to see them for another 6, 7 months. So, we're cruising across the Pacific. We hit Hong Kong as our first port, get out of Hong Kong. And I'm talking to my roommate about like how much I hate what I'm doing,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know? And he's like, what you should do? You should read this book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And so he told me about it. I'm like, yeah, I heard about it, but, never really thought of it. So, we're out underway. We have a library, but we don't have a bookstore,
Yeah.
so all the libraries on the ship aren't the greatest. So we hit port in Dubai finally. First thing I did, I went to that big cool mall in Dubai.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So I went to that mall, went to a bookstore, and I finally bought it there in Dubai.
That's
And I
awesome.
read that book like 3 times on that
Yeah.
cruise. I get home, I'm like, I'm gonna be a businessman. I'm getting out of the military and I'm doing this stuff.
Yeah.
So that was like, for like everyone, it kind of gets that juices rolling. It's
It
like, I
does.
think that's just what I want to do. But
Yeah.
man, yeah, I remember reading that book. That was a powerful book for
It is,
sure.
man. I mean, it does. It like you
Yeah.
read it, and it's one of those ones where it's short enough to where you can just knock it out on one
Yep.
sitting, but like it's long enough to like, oh man, I don't want to do anything today. I just want
Yeah,
to read. Yeah.
exactly. So, and then when I got back from that deployment, I'm like, well, what do I do now? I read this book. Like, I read it 3 times. What's the next thing? So that's when I started listening to podcasts.
That's awesome, man.
And
Yeah.
so anyway, then the journey began from there. So, and I made several stupid mistakes and lost a lot of money. And here I am.
Don't we all? Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Still losing money.
yeah, part of the journey of owning a business, right?
Oh yeah.
Anyway, cool, man. So BRPS, how can they get in touch with you guys? How do they work with you? How's that work?
Yeah. So, and if you're a realtor, if you're buying, selling, relocating, refinancing, anything like that, we can definitely take care of you. Heck, if you just want to go out, have a cocktail or cigar, hit me up.
That's right.
I love it. But Instagram, BRPS title. You can find me on Instagram personally. I see in the loop.
Okay. Yep.
And then, yeah, I'd love to connect with anybody out there. We're, I'm just, we like being known, heard, and seen. We just like
Yes.
to have a good time. Yeah.
Yeah. Same here. That's how we are with Elevation. So if you're in Houston on a Wednesday around 1 o'clock, you want to come to Nice Ash, for the most part, we are here. I
Yep.
am here in the front and stuff. So, what else? Anything, if they want to work, if seller or buyer or whatever want to work specifically with you all, can they make that choice or is it someone else?
So they can. So that's one crazy thing that I guess there's a lot of rumors and things about title when it comes to buying, selling. So who actually picks it? So usually whoever's paying for the title policy gets to
Okay.
pick.
Yeah.
But again, like we were talking about earlier, no one knows what the hell title does or what it is.
Yeah.
So usually it's the realtor that
Gotcha.
that picks it. But at the end of the day, the buyer is actually going to be using it.
Yeah.
So again, whoever really pays for it. But then again, if you tell your realtor, hey, I would like to use BRPS title.
Yeah.
Usually realtors don't have a client that actually asks for title.
Sure. Yeah.
Kind of like in their brain, they're like, oh man, this person actually has, so they'll actually fight to try and
Gotcha. Okay.
Again, everything's negotiable in real estate.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, cool, man. Well, thanks for joining me today and educating me and the audience on title and
Sure.
all that stuff. And I tell you that I'm a little bit more well-versed in title now.
Yeah, like you can do my commercial in the next networking thing.
There you go. Excellent. Well, cool, guys. Hey, thanks for watching Caffeinated Contractor. For the next episode, it's out on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast, all the other places that we show up. And share this with a friend who is buying or selling a house. They don't know about title. This is a very good episode for them to learn a little bit more about what title does and how important it is. So until next time, thank you very much.